Hi, thank you, Stephen. And first of all, I am very well and appreciate the opportunity to address the group today. If you could just advance to the first slide. As you mentioned, I don't think there's much introduction regarding Pfizer required. I've put the website to Pfizer's global homepage, and I would recommend that if people want to find out more about the vaccine and the progress on the vaccine, that they visit our website. So just a little about Pfizer, and I won't labor too much on this. Fleet is currently circa 16,500 vehicles spread over 70 markets around the world. APAC represents approximately 2,500 vehicles and a further 450 allowance takers out of an overall population of 5,000 allowance takers. In terms of the operating model, primarily Pfizer looks to outsource its fleet, and in the majority of the markets, representing 75% of our fleet, we're successful in doing outsource programs of some or other. Some of the key initiatives for Pfizer, and I'll come on to these in relation to APAC on the next slide, is our sustainability program. Sorry, I haven't quite got my together. A project we call Clean Air, which is the introduction of battery electric vehicles. Captive leasing, which is not quite unique, but it's not that common amongst our peers. We have a very interesting program that we've run for about 7 years now around fleet operational excellence, which is an independent sort of survey that we do focused on the programs that we deliver in market to our, what I would describe as commercial colleagues, the sales representatives who are need drivers. And then I think important in all programs is supplier relationship management. So just moving on to APAC specifically, as mentioned, we have just over 2,000 vehicles. The largest fleet, which is our second largest fleet within Pfizer, is Japan. And then the two other main markets for Pfizer, where they have substantial fleet, is the Philippines and Taiwan. Yeah, and I think it's important to just mention that one of the things around the APAC region is the culture. These three alone, there is vastly different culture and also maturity levels in the supply. Again, when we look at the market here, I think the unique thing about APAC is how fragmented the supply chain is. In most of our other regions, we've been successful in consolidating the supply chain and being able to work in a more strategic fashion with our suppliers on the basis there are a few. In the case of APAC, that isn't the case. We tend to work with local suppliers with very little consolidation. Clearly, from our point of view, we would like to consolidate, as we find that strategy has helped us in other regions. but we won't do that at any cost. It has to add value to our overall proposition for running Fleet. I think initiatives, that we find, since looking at APAC compared to the others, is trying to drive performance through the supplier relationship. And the other areas that we've done in other regions and we're focusing on in APAC is around driving more transparency and with that flexibility of the product, which aligns with the needs of Pfizer as we, as an organization, are constantly evolving and changing and need that flexibility in order to be able to meet the business needs. So if you could move on to the next slide, please, Stephen. So I just wanted to share probably one of our most successful programs, and this, no surprise, we focused on Japan. We worked with our partner of many years in Japan to revisit the model that we operate in. Historically, we've worked with a closed-end lease product, a typical operating lease with all of the services built into it. What we wanted to do was to break that product down into its component parts and arrive at a solution for each of those. In so doing that, it achieved our goals of providing transparency. So we were better able to see how the program was functioning. It also gave us the flexibility that we were looking for in taking this approach. However, at the time, I believe we were the only client who had taken this approach. And this approach has now been in place for approximately 2.5 years. And year over year, we've seen some improvement in the delivery of the service and the value add that we get from that service. I think now, if we look to the future for us in APAC, like a number of the earlier speakers, Pfizer's strategy is to further outsource, so to optimize our outsourcing. We also, like many of our peers, have very clear sustainability goals, and this captures the fleet. And Japan being one of our larger markets, we need to look at how we will manage our sustainability going forward. So sustainability, I mentioned earlier our Clean Air project, which is currently active in Europe only, but Japan has been identified as one of the future target markets, probably 22 onwards. And they're really our key focuses for 2021. Looking at some of the sort of tips and takeaways, probably in reverse order, the one that I would single out as most important is the culture. It varies dramatically market to market, and there are some very unique cultures. And it's important to respect those cultures and work with those cultures in order to develop the solutions. I think patience here is a requirement to try to understand how people think and feel towards change. I think the other things, you know, that to us have to be possible is to further consolidate our supply chain. And, you know, over the years, we've seen some progress in this area, but from our point of view, it's something that, you know, I think people should try to look at, because by simplifying the supply chain, it makes it a lot easier to develop a more strategic relationship. So that's really what I wanted to share from the Pfizer program. And I do apologize because I believe there's an echo which hopefully isn't so bad for the audience. But Stephen, I'll hand back over to you for questions.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ivor. Thank you for the insights. Sorry.